Hey, welcome to episode 26 of Talk About the Passion. It's been a couple weeks. How you doing? You look great. It's good to see ya. So my guest today is JJ Gonson, and the episode is called Fly, Robin, Fly, which I named after a Silver Connection song. JJ mentions this single early in the episode, and where she's photographed many people flying off a stage, I thought the title worked. I don't tire over what to name these episodes. You know, sometimes they just sound catchy, and sometimes they fit the conversation. So I thought that one was good for this one. JJ is a photographer based in Boston, Massachusetts, and her work photographing bands live and offstage between the mid 80s and early 90s is just amazing. From Youth of Today to Descendents, Jane's Addiction, Nirvana, and of course Elliott Smith, whose record Roman Candle features a photograph she took on the cover. While planning this episode, like what I was going to ask her and how I wanted to present the episode, I noticed like a circle closing. My first episode of this podcast, I talk about my time as a teenager interviewing hardcore bands. Some of them famous in the hardcore scene anyway, and some of them not so much. One guy I became pen pals with to eventually interview him as a member of the Meatmen was Lyle Pressler, who was the guitar player for this band called Minor Threat. Just a couple of years prior to that. It was no biggie at the time though, and as big as some of those bands were, I never felt like I couldn't approach someone. Anyway, fast forward to a few months ago with the publication of the XXX Fanzine book, which includes a ton of JJ's photographs, and there it is, a picture of the Meatmen I'd never seen from TT the Bears, and there's yours truly standing on stage in a denim vest holding a camera. I'm 16 years old in this picture. And so after JJ and I met last week for this conversation, I found my pictures from the show, and lo and behold, across the stage there's JJ on top of some speakers with her camera. So this made me feel like nostalgic and proud I was part of that world and shared the same experiences with so many other people. So here's the cool thing about these pictures from these hardcore shows that she took, especially for you folks from New England. She's currently showing a bunch of these pictures at a place called Springdale Brewery, which is in Framingham, Massachusetts. They're up right now. I think she might add a couple more, and we'll be there through June. On Saturday, June 2nd, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., there's a reception, which should be a lot of fun. I'm planning on being there. So she gives more details on this near the end of the episode. So and I'll link it from my social media outlets as well. And the photographs look fantastic. I met JJ at the brewery for this recording, actually. And we walked around and looked at all the photographs and, pointed at familiar faces and looked at all the different T-shirts people were wearing. And it was cool. It was cool to hear her talk about, all these pictures. And, it was interesting. We recorded this episode literally under a staircase. So there's a little noise here and there, but nothing horrible. And, the conversation was great. So JJ's a great storyteller and, more than just a photographer, as you'll hear in this episode. A couple more things, and then we'll get this thing started. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Search for Talk About the Passion podcast, and you should be able to find me. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe to me on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm even on Spotify now. If you or someone you know would like to be on this podcast, please don't hesitate to contact me at any of those social media places, or I have an email, talkaboutthep@gmail.com, and talkaboutthep is just the letter P, and we can set something up. Anyway, thanks for listening. Here's episode 26 with JJ Gonson, Fly, Robin, Fly. Thanks. So I'm here with JJ Gonson. We're
Hi.
here in Framingham, Massachusetts.
With
And-
fun.
Yeah. We're under a staircase.
Tonight we are
currently.
young with fun.
So how are you?
I'm good.
Good,
I'm
good.
entertained by
Yeah.
the soundtrack of our lives at the moment. And I have a little bit of the end of a very long running cold, so I sound like Lauren Bacall.
No, that's I had
Did you
one too,
notice?
so- a little bit, yeah. I can hear.
Just whistle.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up, JJ?
I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Thanks for
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what did you
And interview drama.
That's it, yeah. What did you do there for fun as a kid?
Well, I've always been obsessed with music,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the cool things about Harvard Square was the record stores. So from the time I was pretty young,
Mm-hmm.
I would pretty much use my allowance 1-to-1 for singles for 45s,
Yeah.
and I would kind of haunt the record stores of Cambridge, and actually got into a lot of trouble at one once where somebody came in to sell records, and while he was waiting for the owner, I went through the records and bought a couple from him, and the owner got really mad.
Yeah.
Really mad at me, and I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, I'm 13. But that way I scored one of those Beatles Christmas
Oh yeah.
12 inches.
Yeah,
So I have one of those
yeah.
from that.
Still have it?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Do you think it's
Yeah.
worth anything?
It might be.
Yeah, it never
Could be.
was.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
made a lot of them.
Yeah. I was a fan of the Beach Boys Christmas record. That was a
Yeah.
staple in my family's house.
Yeah. Well, no, this was every year they made only for their fan club.
Yeah.
They made a record,
Like
a
a Christmas
Christmas
record.
record.
Huh.
It was like a single, but it was 12-inch.
Oh. So-
Before people did that
Right.
in the house.
Yeah, yeah. So were you a Beatles fan?
I
as
was a
kid?
Beatles nut.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
that your first?
Actually, all right, so my introduction to music was actually, well, partly the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
My mother hated the Beach Boys, and
Okay.
I latched onto them at a very early age.
Yeah.
I listened to the radio from the time I was really young, so
Mm-hmm.
Billy Don't Be a Hero is sort of my childhood era,
Yeah.
Fly Robin Fly,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like late 60s moving into disco, and we were like I was saying, I really love pop music.
Yeah.
I've always been really obsessed with pop music in this weird way, and even still, it's funny, it's not, obsessed isn't the right word, because I actually prefer the music that isn't pop, the stuff that we call in the industry bubbling under.
Right, right.
And I actually usually find that I prefer that, but some of those bands do break.
Mm-hmm.
Nirvana is a great example of a bubbling
Yeah.
under band that I followed for years with
Yeah.
all their friends
Mhm.
that broke. There's a band right now, Portugal the Man,
Yeah.
who are doing very well with a single called Feel It Still.
Okay.
I've been sort of close to that band for
Yeah.
years and years and years and years,
Okay.
10 years, something like that. And so sometimes they make it, but it's that pop sound that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the radio was what I had, my very first single was ABBA, Take a Chance on Me,
Mm-hmm.
followed shortly behind by Pat Benatar, We Live for Love.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, very screechy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was backed by her cover of Wuthering Heights by Kate
Oh.
Bush.
Oh, I didn't know
It was
she
a
did that.
screechy era
Yeah, yeah,
for Pat Benatar.
yeah.
Pat Benatar's screechy era. So record stores, for sure.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are super social, and my mom especially would hang out a lot with friends, and I'd hang out a lot of her friends' houses and cook, a lot of cooking.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of cooking going on, social cooking, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
I still love it. I
Yeah.
love cooking with people.
Yeah.
I should start a company called I'll Come Cook With You. I love cooking with people.
Were your parents music people or into the arts?
My parents are super into the arts,
Mm-hmm.
super into the arts, both of them, and neither of them worked in the arts
Yeah.
because that wasn't their track.
Right.
My mom went to high school at a very artsy school, and she was a flautist
Okay.
and a potter,
Mm-hmm.
and then she went on to become a really amazing English lit teacher, and very creative.
Yeah.
Very good with creative writing and pottery, and amazing with color. Like, my mom can pick curtains to match a rug that she's not looking at, and
Right.
it'll match perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, she's got this incredible sense of design. My dad, and she's an amazing cook, like
Yeah.
a really talented, talented cook. My dad, who grew up in Buffalo, and somehow he went from Buffalo to New York City to college, and he had been obsessed with music in much the same way as me with the radio, and always listening to the radio and listening to his mother sing and all these things when he was a kid. But then he discovered the world, and with it he discovered arts and culture, and got very excited about traveling, and has traveled all over the world and looked at art all over the world. And my mom is obsessed with theater, so they go to theater all over the world, very writing-y, very English litty. And super, super, super open-minded people. And their daughters, I don't know if you know my sister.
I don't.
My sister is a band manager, and a pianist, and has been in a band called the Magnetic Fields since she was, I don't know, 14,
really?
maybe. Okay. Yeah, so a long time. A woman does not disclose her age. So I won't do it on behalf of my sister.
That's fine.
You can know how old I am. She, where were we going with this? She has been in this very, very hyper creative world her whole life. I have been a entrepreneur and in a hyper creative world my whole life. And we are in almost exactly the same tiny little quadrant of the tiny little part of the music scene that we're part of. Like, bizarrely.
But you're like really in it, which is good.
Bizarrely both really in it, in the same place in it, like this kind of indie pop. Like it's not just that we're both in it, we're both in it. We've both managed bands in the same zone.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And so you both got that from your parents,
I guess. I mean, I think that if you tell a kid that they can be anything and do anything and that the arts are important, you get me and Claudia. That's like, we are the absolute product of that mentality. Always positive, always you can do anything, you can be anything, you're great, everything about you is wonderful, and you can do anything, and very supportive, and still very supportive, and very positive, and very wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, we're really lucky.
Yeah. Do you remember the first concert you saw?
Oh, wow. So that is like an answer I should just have, right? I should just be able to be like, yes, it was bleh. But there's this period of time that's a little fuzzy. I think maybe, the first concert that I saw, if I go back, was Tom Rush.
Oh, really?
At that theater that's down in Copley, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a little theatrical theater. That's right in the middle of Copley Square.
Okay.
It's where David Sedaris does his elf show in Christmas time. I can't remember what it's called, but it was Tom Rush and Robin Williams and Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I can't remember. Somebody else amazing, and it was this fundraiser folk concert with comedian fundraiser thing that my dad had bought tickets to it for me and my sister, and he dropped us off, and it was amazing, and all I could think the whole time was, oh my God, I wish he was here, because he would have loved it. But it was really great. It was a really amazing show.
Nice.
So Tom Rush was my first concert.
Oh, right.
Then it gets a little blurry. And it's some very early point, I went to see the Police, both on their opening and their closing tour shows, which were both at Boston Garden. And the first one was with the Go-Go's, and the second one was with Bow Wow Wow.
I was at that, Ghost in the Machine.
Ghost in the Machine tour. I had the T-shirt until very recently. I don't remember the T-shirt with the faces with the
three. I didn't know that those were their faces.
Right, you thought it was like
until like a month ago. Someone was like, those are their faces, and I was like, holy shit!
Whoa, check it out! Those are their faces. It's not just some weird code. We all thought it was like the face of a watch gone wrong or something, but no, it's actually their faces. I had the T-shirt. It glowed in the dark.
Nice.
Yeah. They So around that same time, I saw an amazing show in Tingsboro, and it's funny because I just was with somebody the other day who I met at this show, and somebody said, "How did you meet?" And we were like, Tingsboro, the Ramones,
really?
Jim Carroll, the Lines,
wow,
and David Johansen.
Really? In Tingsboro? I don't even know where that is.
On a ag fairground in Tingsboro.
Right. Huh.
One of those like totally bizarre pop-up festival moments. Somebody decided to have a festival in Tingsboro.
Wow.
And I met a bunch of people there that I still know, which is cool, or went to that show with them. And so that, I was pretty young at that one. These were all like around maybe, I don't know, 8th grade? Maybe when was, what year? It was 80.
That Ghost in the Machine would have been 80.
80?
81, 80?
Yeah.
80 or 81.
I feel like it was 80. I don't know why I think that. Well, because it would have been, it was going out and coming back, so it could have been 2 different years even.
Right, yeah.
But, so yeah, I was in 9th grade.
Right.
And I feel like I must have seen a lot of live music before then.
Yeah.
But nothing that stands out as like a concert.
Right.
My dad offered to take me to see The Clash at the Harvard Square Theater, and I said no.
Yeah, my dad was going to take us, my brother and I, to see Miles Davis at the Hollywood Bowl. Like it was later, and it was probably in the 80s or something, and I just kind of blew it off.
You know what? In the late 70s, I saw Stevie Wonder at the Orpheum.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Thanks for jogging my memory there. Wow, we're really going back. Tom Rush.
Yeah.
I must have been like 9 when I saw Tom Rush.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. My first was Cat Stevens, which I don't even remember that.
You don't remember it?
I was probably 6 or 7.
Yeah. I don't really remember Tom Rush. I remember the experience of being in the theater.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I lucked out having a dad that would take us to shows.
To real shows, yeah. What was your second show?
So we were in Boston, and I think my second one might have been Supertramp. So this was probably around 75.
Yeah. So was this before he went to work in LA?
Yeah. Well, he got transferred out there, so we all moved. He moved us out there.
That is a crazy noise.
Yeah.
For those in the listening audience, the sky is falling over our heads, but we're under a metal staircase, so we're safe.
Yeah, we're good.
What even is that? Oh, no, I know what it is. And it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
How bad is it?
Oh, it's not bad. No,
it's
I think
the
we're
sound of people playing one of those basketball games where you throw basketballs relentlessly at a piece of metal for 3 solid minutes or something. Okay.
No, I can't really.
Really?
So we'll see.
Cool.
But he moved us to California in 1976, and we were there for about 5 years, and then parents split up, so we came back here. And so he still worked in the business, so he would get my mom tickets, and she would take, because they were still, well, they weren't talking at that point, but she would get. He
appreciated that you should go see culture.
Yeah, so
go get some culture.
Pablo Cruz.
Where did you live?
I grew up in the North Shore. In Nahant.
Nahant.
Swampscott.
Which is now underwater.
Yeah, pretty much.
Aww.
Yeah. So, but
that's nice. So pretty.
Yeah. So, photography. When did that come into your life?
Yeah. Well, that actually was pretty early. I had one of those little Kodak cameras with the little shutter release on it, and I took a lot of pictures. Starting, my dad was really into photography. He had a darkroom in the basement. I didn't use it, but I was aware I was probably imitating because he was a very good photographer.
Yeah.
And I was given my first camera for my bat mitzvah, and I was 11. Does that make sense? 11, 12? And it was a Minolta XG.
Yeah.
And it was fixed 50. I mean, removable lens, but fixed 50, 35 millimeter with a Vivitar hot shoe flash, which I might have actually bought myself later.
Right.
I might have saved up my pennies to buy that Vivitar flash. And it was a sweetie pie. It was a really great little camera. I really loved it.
for that first camera.
For a long time. No, the only camera, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the camera that went into war with me, that went into the trenches.
Oh, really?
Yep, that was the camera. It was solid as a brick.
Oh, wow.
And Vivitar,
Yeah.
hot shoe mounted flash, and go, F8 and be there. So there's a couple of pictures in the show.
Yeah.
And this show is really, we can talk about what this show
Yeah,
is,
of
because
course.
this show is not other shows.
Right.
There's a couple of pictures that I must have gotten a zoom lens at some point. I remember hating zoom lenses, and I still do, because it makes things soft.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have as fast a shutter speed. You don't have as a long a depth of field. You can't cheat. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't matter anymore, because now we have like 8 gazillion ISO and autofocus and auto exposure and all this stuff. But when I was shooting black and white film with a manual camera, I had a light meter in my camera, but it wasn't, I had to turn things. My light meter, I had a very modern camera that already started to have some automatic settings, so I did have something called aperture priority, which means that I could set the aperture and then the ring would change or something. No. You know what? I didn't.
No.
I changed my aperture all the time, and it was all manual focus.
Yeah. Huh.
So the reason I say that is because the aperture would have almost always been, well, it depended on the distance from the subject, but I was using what's called a Thermistor flash, which on the back you would evaluate. You'd say, okay, my throw here is 6 feet, my throw here is 12 feet, and then it would tell you what to set your aperture at based on the only shutter speed you can use with a hot shoe mounted flash, which is 1/60th of a second. So a lot of my pictures are in motion because 1/60th of a second with a flash, the flash is a little bit faster than that. The idea is not to get drag, right? Or slower? I guess it would be slower, so it fills the whole time. Anyway, you only get 1/60th of a second. If you go faster or slower, things don't work. The flash is fast enough to freeze motion. So if something's moving, in theory, the flash will suspend it. But if something's moving really fast, 1/60th of a second isn't really enough. So in some cases, things are a little out of focus. In some cases, I think what was going on was I think sometimes I actually did keep my shutter open at 125th. Maybe not in any of these, though, because sometimes I kind of used light. I'm getting way too detailed into this now.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I really love photography.
Well, that's the whole point.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. I love it. I actually was thinking recently that, so in life, you have to take the things and ride them, right? Like whatever's happening. And I've had a few times that I've shown work, and I've been selling work to magazines and books pretty steadily for a long time. You know, piece here, a piece there, not a ton. But once in a while, there's a few books that I have work in. And recently, I made a decision that I was going to kind of crowbar my work out and starting to get it organized. And I can't remember exactly. I guess maybe I left my number or something at one of the Diesel cafe places. Like there's Diesel, there's Forge, there's Block 11. I think what happened was I left my number or my email address, and they emailed me and said, yeah, we really do want a show here. So as with everything I do, I went a little overboard, and I did like a million pictures. It was stupid. It was like 28 or something. I did a show once at Suzu. Where I put hook eyes into the walls on either side of the mirrors, and I ran wires across the mirrors, and then I hung black and white prints, and I went into a studio for 3 days and printed for 8 hours a day, and everything I printed I put up, and there was 75 pictures.
Oh, really?
It was like they were like fluttering. It looked like the drying racks in a photo studio. There was, and people had to like move them to see, and they all were handwritten on who they were, which I should go do something on those. So those pictures, I called that show First Edit, because around the same time I decided, with this whole kind of shoehorning out, I decided that I really want to publish before I die. not in other people's books,
Right.
but in my own book.
Yeah.
Maybe more than one.
Yeah.
So I started to reach out to editors and agents, and I've gotten nowhere, by
Right.
the way, just so you know.
Yeah. Just people saying like, no, not interested, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my husband, who is a saint, says that if you're selling a red Honda Civic and somebody wants a white Ford Econoline and you're selling a red Honda Civic, they're very unlikely to buy your car.
Right.
But if they want a red Honda Civic, that's when you have to convince them you're the right red Honda Civic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm now thinking of myself as a red Honda Civic. If you're a red Honda Del Sol, a 1993 Del Sol in good condition, and somebody's looking for a Ford Econoline, they're not going to buy your 1993 mint condition
Right.
Honda Del Sol. That's what I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a Honda Del Sol.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's practical and sporty.
Yeah. 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 I think with the Triple X book,
Yeah.
that's displaying like so much of your work. And I
Yeah,
think
it is,
that
but
kind of-
that's
but
what
it's
you
Mike's book.
see.
Right. Right.
As opposed to Torment Saint,
Right.
which had 30 of my photos of Elliott Smith in it,
Right.
or Finding Cobain by Charles Cross,
Yep.
which had a full plate
Yeah.
of one of my photos of
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain. So, I mean, it goes on and on. There's
Right.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
publication. I am published in Mojo and Q
Nice.
pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Like they're about to do another thing, and
Yeah.
it's not that I'm not published, it's that I'm not published in my own
Yeah.
vehicle.
Right. Right.
I want to be published in my own vehicle.
Yeah.
And I actually have, ironically, a academic book
Yeah.
in me that I want to do that has to do, I keep giving this idea away, but I think that the more I talk about it, the better the book will be.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm going to interview people about it to do this book. But
Yeah.
it has to do with this moment in time when I believe that hair metal combined with things that were happening in various areas
Yeah.
and created basically grunge.
Yeah.
So you have touring bands that are punk bands,
Right.
and particularly, it's basically the birth of grunge. You have touring
Yeah.
bands that are punk bands, but what you're hearing on the radio is hair metal. It's like
Right.
Stryper,
Guns N' Roses.
right?
and
Guns N'
Stryper.
Roses and stuff like that. And the result, the clash between the kind of the LA hair metal and the East Coast, and even some West Coast punk rock, is this thing, this bubble that happens up in the Northwest,
Right.
because all they see touring
Yeah.
is
Just-
hardcore bands,
Right.
and all they hear on the radio is LA hair metal.
Right. Interesting.
And I think that's where grunge was born.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I have the pictures to prove
Yeah.
it.
Definitely.
So that book, that's one book that I have wanted to do for a long time. And then I'm sitting on some stuff that nobody's ever seen. In particular, I'm sitting on some stuff from Nirvana
Yeah.
that sitting on it's like I'm hatching it,
Nice.
which makes me think of parakeets.
Yeah.
I have this work, this Nirvana work that I just found recently, of Reading in '92.
Yep.
And there's a couple of shots in there that I'm really excited about that I haven't done anything with yet. And so
Yeah.
I sort of would love to do a Nirvana book.
Yeah.
And except it would be kind of short. It'd be like, I don't know, there's not a lot of Nirvana images,
Right,
but that's
right.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be a coffee table book with huge plates with nothing on the opposing page.
Yeah. Just,
And it would be 30 pages long and done.
yeah. Perfect.
All right, so that's the Nirvana book. I
So-
feel like Todd already did the Elliott book.
Yeah. Going backwards to
Okay.
like photography and music.
Yeah.
When did those merge for you? When did you?
In 1980, I was standing in line to see. That's not right. It couldn't have been 80. In 1985,
Yeah.
I was like 80. I was standing in line to see Huskadoo on the Cherry. What was it called? Cherry Poppin', Cherry Daddy, Cherry
Candy
Red.
Apple Red.
Candy Apple Gray. On the Candy Apple Gray.
Soul Asylum and maybe.
Yeah, maybe Soul
Yeah.
Asylum.
Paradise.
Probably
Yeah.
Paradise.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow, cherry poppin' daddies. See, I told you I keep on top of everything.
Yeah.
Candy Apple Gray with a tip of the hat to a wonderful band. Sorry
Yeah.
about that, guys. So I was standing in line to see Huskadoo.
Yeah.
And I was standing next to this kid who was maybe a year older than me.
Yeah.
And we were talking because that's what you did when you're a boy and a girl and you're heterosexual and you're standing in line at a show and you're checking this person out to see if they're even like remotely a possibility, which happily was not the case. But what did end up happening, and I say happily because what ended up happening was better.
Right.
What are you into? I started a fanzine. Really? I like to take pictures. Do you ever need photographers? Well, yes, I do. So I became, in one fell swoop, one of the photographers for XXX Fanzine. Once I got a taste of what that meant, you're on the guest list.
Yeah.
You're escorted to the front of the stage. You are protected because people want you to take those pictures, and then you're published and paid for it.
Yeah.
I was sold, absolutely sold. I was in college. I was probably a freshman in college. He was maybe a sophomore at BU. I was at the museum school. I had full darkroom access all the time.
Yeah.
Then I took a year off from school and worked in a photo lab and continued to have full darkroom access. I worked at Ferranti Deghi in Harvard Square.
Okay.
And and I loved it. I loved the joy and the passion of it. And once I had started taking pictures of bands at shows, the next natural step was to take pictures of bands post.
Yeah.
And so the next show is actually going to be called Portraits.
Oh, yeah?
And it will have some of those posed
Yeah. You have a great
shots.
picture of the Descendents, I think, behind the rat.
Yep.
That's a great shot.
That's one of my very favorite ever photos because what happened in that photo, and I have all the before and after too.
Yeah.
What happened in that photo was that I said, come on, we're going to go sit on this fire escape so I can get you on Tears. It's a nice day. I'm going to take your band photo for whatever magazine or newspaper was paying me to do it that day. And it wouldn't have been XXX. It would have been like Boston Rock or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I went and I did that thing where you like herd cats.
Yeah.
And you get them all into one place. And somebody in the band was probably like, come on, guys, because they recognized the promotional opportunity.
Yeah,
and Bill Stevenson was very late to the table.
Yeah.
I took one picture and he stood up and walked out. The one picture is not the money shot.
Right.
The money shot is as he's walking out of the frame, glaring at the camera. They're all looking at him like, what the fuck?
Right.
It totally told the story
Yeah.
of what was going on, and it was a much more dynamic band portrait.
Nice.
And I do have this thing I do, and with digital, obviously, it's easier, where I do shoot a couple of dummy shots before I actually take the shot that I know is going to be I always fire a dummy shot.
Right.
Because you got to get people, and with a real camera and they hear clunk,
Right.
then they stop
Then they
posing,
stop,
they
right.
know you got the shot, and that's when you start to shoot. So I did shoot a couple of them on the stairs. He walked away almost immediately. I shot a couple of the band behind the scenes too, like before.
Yeah.
So I know that he wasn't there. Because there's a few of just them on the stairs.
Yeah. Now,
I love that.
Was that a challenge going from, because at the hardcore shows, it's sort of, or live shows, it's in the moment and you're capturing something.
Yeah, you're still capturing it. What I can't do is, my son is a terrific architectural photographer. I can't take pictures of things that aren't moving.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I like to move when I shoot. So we can talk about this if you want to. I haven't shot a rock show in years.
Yeah. How long?
Since the invention of the digital camera.
Really? Yeah.
Because I stopped seeing the point.
Yeah. Well, I always thought, like, when looking at all your pictures now that they're here and in the book, is you captured these moments that not many people were capturing because
nobody was there.
And it's it sounds like an old person
No,
complaining,
nobody
but
was there.
now there's 300.
Right.
You go to a show and then that night you can see.
I do other things now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cook.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do, and I haven't been doing it very much, and I really want to get back to this. My favorite thing to do is to cook weird little pop-up dinners.
Yeah.
I love cooking little pop-up dinners.
Yeah. Nice.
And I'd love to do more of that.
Yeah.
I used to do a ton of it, and the economy shift, people don't hire personal chefs as much as they used to.
Right.
Or maybe I'm bad at it.
Yeah.
It's possible maybe I really suck at it.
No.
They seem to be having a good time, though.
Yeah.
They could be faking it. They could all be pretending to have a good time, but they're not really having a good time.
I think you're being hard on yourself here.
It's possible.
But so when I look at nowadays, you can see 500 pictures of someone. So, you go to a show and you can see the next day on Instagram or Facebook the same exact picture. So I think this is amazing that you can, because there's only one picture of Kevin Seconds holding the mic to the crowd with his hair back, and Hank, and these familiar faces, and I think that's like an important thing for people to see that.
I think so too. It's really super, super important for a particular group of people.
Yeah.
And they're as Gitters says in the fanzine, they're my tribe. Mm-hmm. They're my loves.
It's true.
They're my darlings. They're my family. And in that I would give anything to my family, I will go through this pile of pictures forever, sharing them with people forever, because it's really important. And actually, this miraculous thing has happened, which is that the people in my family who want to own them and who can buy them do.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they recognize that they're patrons to the arts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's really, I can't tell you how helpful it is that this happens, that people get in touch with me and say, so these pictures, these are inkjet prints. Mm-hmm. They're very, very low quality in my opinion. When I look at them, I can see where the ink is sitting on the paper. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Hats off.
Right.
Nomen copy. Harvard Square. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Amazing. They worked so hard, gave me proofs.
Yeah.
They worked so hard for this to be absolutely perfect, and I'm so pleased and so impressed, and they did an amazing job. The biggest problem with them is that I did very low res scans because I decided that I wanted to do something here that was different, and I'm just going to be brutally honest here. I couldn't afford to have them all scanned.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap to have something scanned at high res. So the ones, if somebody contacts me to buy one, what I'm charging them for here is
for high quality. I'm
charging them both for the print, which is really high quality, and also for the scan, which is really high quality, because my scans on my flatbed scanner, they're fine for this,
right?
Because you're looking at them from far away through rose-colored glasses,
right?
But they're not good enough for real reproduction, for silver print, which is an actual, the light shines on the paper and it has to be of a certain resolution to actually look really good. So digital silver imaging do that, and they're incredible, and they've been doing my work for years, and they're great. And so if somebody orders one from me, it actually is an order that goes straight to them, because they're pros and they do a great job. And so there you go. But those are the patrons. Those made this show possible. And it's almost like, as people would buy one, I would make more prints. Right. So I just got to make 3 more prints. So I'm going to fill that last wall.
Oh, awesome.
But that was because somebody bought something. Yeah. So now I can make 3 more prints.
Now, when you were taking these pictures and then you would go get them developed, it must have been like an amazing feeling.
Well, I didn't get them developed, my love.
I
developed them.
That's what I meant to say. When you were developing them.
First of all, photography is magic.
Yeah.
There's nothing science about it. It is pure magic. It is pixie dust and little that's the wrong word, little naked children running around in the woods with wreaths on their heads. It's total magic. Yeah. So I don't know where that came from. Naked babies with wreaths. It's magic. Especially because they're walking. Why would babies walk? So they... oh, boy. I'm never going to get out of that one. So developing film there's this moment. Have you ever developed film?
I haven't.
Okay.
No.
So you're in dark, total dark, and you take a can opener and you pop open that little 35 millimeter canister, and in total dark, you take that film and you wind it onto a spiral. It's called a reel, a film reel, and you load the film onto the reel, and it can't be touching at any point on that winding, or it will get a spot mark.
Yeah.
Then, still in the dark, you put it into a canister and you lock it down, and then the canister is designed light. This is very important. This is all you need to know in photography ever. Light only travels in a straight line. So you have this canister with a lid that is made out of black plastic, so it goes down and then over and then down, so you can get liquid in and out of it without light going in and out of it. And you do this process where you put the developer in, and then you shake it every 30 seconds a little bit. You agitate it to keep the chemistry moving, and you tap it to get rid of air bubbles very lightly so you don't break it. And you go through developer and then stop bath and then fixer. When you get through the second minute of the fixer, you can open the canister.
All right. And that's what you see.
That is the magical moment when you find out whether you actually managed to capture anything. Because there's always a possibility that your shutter speed got knocked out by some stage diver and you shot everything at a 30th of a second and you only have a half a picture, like I have of 2 rolls of the swans. And there's always the possibility that the film never went through the camera.
It just wasn't wound on there.
That happens. So it's blank. There's the possibility that something's wrong with the film and it was flashed, in which case it's black. So 9 times out of 10, the pictures are there. And then you have that moment of like, I can't wait to look at them. But you know, if they were there, I knew they were okay. If they were there, if there was highs and lows and everything in between, I'd got the shot. Because that's the easy part.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
It's the exposure that's hard.
So when you would discover, wow, this is an amazing shot that I captured here, but there must have been times when you look through and maybe it just wasn't,
and there was
you weren't
nothing.
feeling it for you, or were there times when
I've never had that experience.
Good. Well, that's good. That's good.
I do now, once in a while now. So actually I had it very, very, very recently. I found some film and I was really hoping that it was a thing that it wasn't. So in the end, I'm happy I have it because I have some pictures on film of my kids. It was rolls of film that I had shot recently, within the last 10 years. But there was a band that I had really hoped that I got, and I did get one beautiful shot, one beautiful shot of the bass player bent all the way over backwards. And it's beautiful, and he's like full on, and he's in motion, and his hair is moving, and it's a gorgeous shot. One.
Who was this?
On the entire roll. Portugal the Man. One picture on the entire roll. Now's the moment I should sell it. But the rest of them were all horribly, horribly, horribly underexposed. There's like the edge of someone's face, but there's no real. There's no real shot, except for that one, which is gorgeous, because I must have been standing very close to him. And that would have been shooting probably with a 50 millimeter lens. And I'm not sure what that was all about, why I was shooting film that day. I'm guessing somebody put a camera in my hands and was like, hey, could you shoot some film? Maybe my husband, who shot film for a while. My camera broke about 15 years ago, my Minolta, and that was the end of film. Because digital had started happening at that time. So the reason I shot music was because I love music. When I had kids, I really liked being around kids. So I started shooting kids. I shot families for like their own keepsake. Not a lot of them, but a few. I think I borrowed digital cameras to do that. And I shot for the Martha's Vineyard Times. I shot lifestyle events, so I shot things like kids making Valentines at the library for the Martha's Vineyard Times for 4 years. And so I did that with like ELF point and shoots, like really, really low res cameras, because it was for black and white print production, so it didn't have to be high res. And honestly, those were really exciting because in those days, Well, I'd stopped shooting bands at all, so it didn't matter to me that I wasn't shooting bands.
Right.
But there weren't a lot of people shooting.
Yeah.
So it was still kind of, I was still in a special place at a special time.
Yeah.
Just a different special place. I went through a whole phase also.
Yeah.
Where I traveled with a circus.
Oh yeah.
For about 6 months.
Really?
And yeah. As an electrician. And I took all these photos. These are film photos.
Yeah.
From up in the scaffolding of this circus because I was an electrician, so I was up running a spotlight.
Right.
So I was up above it all. So it's all pictures of like the shapes of the tent and looking through the filters and things.
Huh. Nice.
Pictures nobody's ever seen. I documented a Catholic school for about 6 months.
Really?
As a project one time.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Sure. It's great.
And you're talking about special moments. You photographed Nirvana early on when they first got to
really
the first time they played in Massachusetts.
1988.
88 at Green Street.
At Green Street. Were you there?
I wasn't. I was at Man Ray.
I photographed them there too.
I took some. I had like
Did
a crappy.
you?
Yeah, there's a book that a guy from FNX wrote a book on Nirvana, and he used one of my pictures in there. That was just a crappy.
That's awesome.
Instamatic
Who
camera,
cares?
No, I know.
Who cares? You were there with a camera, and most people weren't.
Yeah. So were you able to feel that they were like an important, like when you first saw them or heard Nirvana or met them, did you know that they were going to be, like, could you feel that? Because
I still feel that when I see bands.
Yeah.
I mean, they were amazing.
Yeah.
But the reason that we were hanging out with them, the reason that they were staying with us wasn't because they were amazing.
Yeah.
It was because lots of bands stayed with us.
Yeah.
And there was a sort of a loop coming out of Seattle that I had fallen into with bands like, oh God, wow, that sucks.
Nirvana.
No,
Before Nirvana.
before and punk.
Yeah.
There were punk bands
Yeah.
from Seattle
Right.
that were touring the hardcore circuit. And I had met people from those bands because they were touring the hardcore circuit.
Right. Yeah.
And then they would go back. And there was one in particular, and I'm just so embarrassed that I'm not pulling this name right now because they were really, really good friends. I'm going to remember it all of a sudden. I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, it was blah, blah, blah. Not Caustic Resin. Before that, I can't remember, but it was a name kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I'm so embarrassed I can picture them all. So there was bands coming through from Seattle, and Nirvana were one of the bands. I had toured the country a couple of times at that point with Hullabaloo.
Okay.
And so we knew people both from the West Coast and the East Coast, because when bands had come through on tour, and I was managing a band called Hullabaloo.
Yeah.
So I was touring with Hullabaloo, and the scene that I was really excited about at that time was actually what I think became the grunge scene.
Yeah.
But it's that moment that I'm talking about where you have all this hardcore coming through, but then you also have all this hair metal and
that was a
Fleetwood
cool time
Mac.
of music. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, oh, it was great. It was
88, 89.
great.
Yeah.
Great time in music. Great. 88 to 92. Fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And even beyond. But that moment, 88 to 92 is what I think of it as.
Yeah.
The birth of grunge. So these bands, I mean, I'm thinking of them like all over the country. House of Large Sizes, the Mud Women. Like there were these bands all over the country that would come through.
Yeah.
But then we would also see them. We would also play with them when we were in their towns.
Right.
And so someone. I mean, it could, quite honestly, it could have been Jonathan Poneman. I don't remember. Someone called me and said, I've got this band coming and I don't have anywhere to put them and they don't have anywhere to stay and they're tired and they need a break and can you put them up? So we went to Green Street and we walked up to them and said, so and such sent us, we're taking you home tonight. And they said, thank you. And we took them home and put them on our floor in Watertown and hung out with them and became friends with them. Sluggo in particular became, he traded a guitar. Kurt had smashed his guitar in New York the night before and didn't play the guitar. I probably saw the only show that Kurt didn't play guitar.
Right.
Maybe not, but he didn't play guitar that night. Jason Everman played guitar. A fascinating character.
Yeah.
And so I have all these pictures of them all hanging out the next morning, not because, I mean, certainly to some degree I must have been like, oh my God, these guys are amazing.
Right.
Because they were, but not as amazing as when I saw them at Man Ray.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it.
They'd moved to a different place.
Oh, yeah.
That first tour was very punk.
Yeah.
And it changed. I mean, they got better. The more they toured, the better they got. They were very good, but they weren't as good as they were at Man Ray.
Right.
Or at MIT or Hampshire, those shows.
Were you at the MIT one? I wasn't.
What?
Were you at the MIT one? Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. Everyone claims to be at that one, but
I was actually. I have pictures. I have pictures to prove it. I was there. That's some of the photos.
Yeah.
I have about 4 different moments. I shot them in my home, which everybody has seen. Although there's all these pictures that people haven't seen because why would they? Pictures of Chris Novoselic sitting with Jason Everman and just hanging out with coffee. Right. Thor Eisentrager from the Cows was there, and he was hanging out because they were friends and stuff like that. We were just hanging out, drinking coffee. So I saw them at MIT. I didn't shoot them at Green Street. I shot them next day. I shot them at MIT. I shot them at Man Ray. And then I just recently discovered that I shot them at Reading, which is a great story.
Yeah.
We're probably running out of time.
No. Talk as long as we want.
It's a great story.
Okay.
It's one of those...
Yeah.
Like it would be a good actual like a fiction novel, right?
Okay.
Someday.
Yeah.
Next thing. Maybe that's one of the books. So anyway. I needed a break and I was trying to get away from music and I just graduated from art school and I couldn't get a job because the government had just lifted all the art teacher positions out of 1991, gone, no art teacher positions in public schools, and I just spent 6 years getting a dual degree to teach art in public schools.
Timing. Right?
Never use that degree. Use it every day.
Right.
Education degree, classroom management.
Yeah.
Behavior modification. So I didn't know what to do with myself. I went to Portland. I ran away and joined the circus. That was great. I went to Portland. I worked in a restaurant. That was great. Food. Love food.
Yeah.
I started going out to see bands. I wasn't going to take pictures. I refused to work with them. I was not going to manage a band. I was not going to do it. Yeah. My friend Jason introduced me to his friends Neil and Elliot. They just moved from Hampshire College with their band Heat Miser. I was like, no, I'm not going to get back into this, even though I know exactly what this band needs. And I booked a flight, what they call an open jaws ticket, and got a year rail pass, and I booked a flight into Portugal. And I met a friend from Boston, and we traveled together from Portugal down into Morocco, across Spain. Somehow, we didn't go to France and Germany. I don't know how we did this, because we did Spain and Italy.
Right.
How did we miss France and Germany? I remember some Alps being involved.
Right.
But we got to Italy, and then ultimately, she decided to leave 2 months in, and I decided to stay. And I went east and went to Czechoslovakia, which was just becoming the Czech Republic. So I went to Prague and Vienna. I did not cross into deep Eastern Europe. Things were still a little rough.
Right.
The wall hadn't come down yet. I didn't go to Poland.
Right.
The wall came down like a minute later. And I followed these darling people. I met these very sweet college students to this place called Tilburg in Amsterdam from Prague, where we were living the life of the Lotus Eaters. You stay in a hostel thing in Prague, in a big auditorium, big room, and every morning at 7:00 they wake you up and they say, "Do you want breakfast or are you going to stay another day?" And what do? You give them the money to stay another day because fuck you, it's 7:00 in the morning and I was out all night. So we were living in this life where we were never going to leave, and they were like, "Come with us. We have to go back to college. Come with us. Come to Tilburg." So I went to Tilburg and I saw the Floriade, the big flower show, and it was phenomenal, and the food was great, and smoking in movie theaters, and just incredible experience. And I took a bus or a coach, and I went to Hoek van Holland, and I took the ferry, which is awful, pukey ferry, to Harwich. And then I took, my father always says, a second-class carriage because of D'Oyly Carte, Gilbert and Sullivan. But I took a coach to London. I took the tube into the center of London. I exited at Piccadilly Circus, and somebody called my name, and I turned around, and it was Nirvana, which was weird because I had gone on this walkabout, this mission, this 3-month journey to look at religious art in the original, and I had found Nirvana. And I went to Reading, and I was on the side of the stage when they pushed him out in the gurney. Yeah. Those pictures are no good.
No?
No, fix 50.
Yeah, oh, really?
Miles away. Those pictures are no good. But I have some other pictures.
Yeah.
I have pictures of us on the tube and hanging it out in Piccadilly Circus. And he went to we went to some kind of like hard rock. I don't think the Hard Rock existed yet.
Right.
But it was called like the Rock and Roll Restaurant or something like that. Because he needed to pee. Yeah. And they didn't let him in. Really? Because his jeans were torn.
Meanwhile, he's playing in front of thousands.
Reading. He was headlining Reading. That was the second year.
Right.
That wasn't the first year where they played Reading. That was the second year where they headlined and they said they would only headline if they could curate it.
Right. Yeah. So they got to.
So it was Mudhoney and the Beastie Boys and Nick Cave and Run DMC and like
Dinosaur,
definitely the Melvins. Yeah. I mean, it was just like.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It was bliss. It was full-on bliss. It was the most amazing festival ever.
Yeah. Nice.
And I'm not a festival fan.
Yeah.
So I actually really like Boston Calling.
Yeah.
It's not very big.
Right.
So
and
you actually
so
you actually can really feel like you're I don't know. I feel like it's a very connected festival. The sound is good. Yeah. I saw Bon Iver and Mac DeMarco last year, and they were both phenomenal. The sound was really good. Yeah. It wasn't bad. Like, the sightlines weren't actually that bad.
Right.
I've gone every year.
Yeah.
It's big now, but it's not as big as Reading.
Yeah.
It's not like Glastonbury.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like so big that you can't even see the band. And it's not that painful, thank God. Right. It'll get there.
Yeah.
But it's not there yet.
So this band...
Yeah, and I don't have to park. That probably makes a big difference, right?
Like dealing with like a big traffic
I can walk from my house to Boston Calling.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So this band Heat Miser.
Yeah.
What was the deal with them?
So Heat Miser, like Nirvana, the first time I ever saw Heat Miser, I knew that they were... I mean, you know that, right? You see somebody and you're like, this person is a special songwriter.
Yeah, of course.
This is not your average everyday songwriter.
Yeah.
There's a woman right now named Morgan Eve Swain who was in a band called Brown Bird, and her new band is called Huntress and Holder of Hands. Yeah. And I don't give a fuck what you think about how she produces this music. Yeah. Because it's weird how she produces it, and it's, as she said to me the other day, I just met her recently. She's great. She said to me, it's bass, viola, drums. It's a double bass, bass viol, cello, a bass, electric bass guitar, a viola, and drums with 3 female vocals. It's almost impossible to mix. Yeah. It's like, how do you? There's no mid. Right. Zero mid. It's so quiet. It's like really, really, really hard to work with without it feeding back and being crazy. So, when I first heard her music, and I actually met her before I heard her music. Yeah. When I first heard her music, not her band, but her music, I do believe that this woman is an exceptionally talented songwriter. I believe that. Yeah. Does that mean she's going to make it? Probably not, because she's a woman. Right. Yeah. For starters. Yeah. Right. With women in her band. Right. So, people are like, but the Roaches, but the Bangles. And I'm like, but who else? Right. Name 10 bands, Right. Name 10 bands. Right. How many of them are actually women? Right. Like, how many of them really, like, even one? Yeah, no, I know. If you pick the first 10 bands I think of, first of all, I have practiced this skill of naming women. Yeah. I've practiced it. I've made myself learn how to do it. So I could probably do 10 pretty quickly. Yeah. But maybe. Right. But most people, if you say name 10 bands without any agenda, they're going to just... It's going to be all male bands. Right. So, but she's really talented. So, the first time I ever saw Heat Miser, I knew immediately that I was dealing with mad talent, and it was really hard for me to not say, I want to work with you, and they even asked me, and I said no.
Right.
And then I said yes later. I came back from Reading and was like, okay, fuck it. I'm never getting out. I might as well just do this thing. And that was not the first time I'd walked away from music. It's not the last time I'll walk away from music. Right. Music is, it's something that I don't necessarily choose. Right. It's like the wand.
Yeah.
So how do you talk about Elliott Smith? Somebody actually said this. How do you cover an Elliott Smith song? You can't.
Yeah. There's certain
Nobody
artists.
can cover an Elliott Smith song because not only was he singing it, but he was playing it.
Yeah.
And not only can nobody sing like Elliott Smith, nobody can play like Elliott Smith.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you talk about an Elliott Smith song? Or how do you talk about that experience of watching someone? And Kurt was that good. And I've seen people... I watched, the bass viol player in Huntress is so talented.
Yeah.
Is so talented.
Right.
That it's like she is absolutely connected to her instrument, intimately connected to it. And that's that thing that you see. Yeah, you see it. And you see it. Why did we go see Dag Nasty? To watch fucking Brian Baker play guitar.
Yeah.
That's why we went to see Dag Nasty, was to watch Brian Baker play guitar. Yes, everybody was good, but Brian Baker could play the fuck out of that guitar. Yeah. Or, I can think of so many things like this. Why do I go to see Rhett Miller? Because, oh my God, when he does that thing with his arm that's completely disconnected as he's singing and playing every note ever known to man, and how does he even do that?
Right.
I don't know. I can even think local bands I love, and of course now I'm pulling all these male bands and I'm kicking myself. Julie Rhodes, great, amazing, deep from the bottom of her heart. Fucking Ruby Rose Fox, oh my God. Mm-hmm. So you see these people. Yeah. So Elliott was like that. It was oh my God. And Heat Miser were great. They were a great band. One of the things about Heat Miser was that, in fact, if Elliott hadn't been so mind-bogglingly talented, he would not have drawn focus from the three other mind-bogglingly talented people in that band. Right. The drummer is a remarkable producer, has been producing for years. Mm-hmm. The Dandy Warhols is kind of his claim to fame. Yep. But he produced the Hard-Ons. Remember the Hard-Ons?
Oh, yeah, from Australia,
Yeah. And a lot of other people. Yeah. And... the bass player doesn't play in bands, I don't think, anymore, although I hope he's playing bass at all because he was really, really super great. Right. And the other guitar player was, one or the other would write the songs. Whoever song it was would be singing. Right. And he also wrote really great songs. Yeah. A lot of my favorite Heat Miser songs are Neil's songs.
Yeah. Huh. Nice.
Where am I from?
So this
music and photography, and photography and music and food. Yeah. And I love food. Yeah. I do. I love it.
Which now?
I'm a caterer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm a caterer. I own Cuisine on Locale. Yep. Which is a catering company that, in turn, has a venue that we call ONCE. Yes. And it's an awful name. People are like, ONCE. Why would I? Me. Yeah. Me. I came up with it. It's an acronym. Right. And it's a brand that I used for years, and it doesn't belong on the side of a venue. But you know what? If you can teach somebody to call something TT the Bears, right. You can teach them to call it just about anything.
Right. Green Street Station.
Green Streets. It's a bad name. ONCE is a bad name because it connotates you go once and you don't go again. On the other hand, people are now saying it the same way they ever said the Rat. Yeah, so of course. It's ONCE. It's what it is. It's where you go. Have you been to ONCE? I'm going to ONCE. Right. I don't know. They're playing at ONCE. Let's hasten to the bar at ONCE.
Yeah. It's been doing good though. We've had some.
It is. It is. We call it a magic rainbow unicorn butterfly. It is a very special and very unusual place, and I can only say, like any magical unicorn, rainbow unicorn butterfly. It is what it is. Yeah. It is temporal and ethereal, and I can't say what mercurial form it will take at any time. Right. We're branching out all over the place. Things shift and change. Mm-hmm. I love doing metal. Yeah. I really love a good loud band.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so how does it
Worshiper. Have you seen Worshiper?
Oh, I love Worshiper.
They're playing.
Yeah. John was on the
Oh,
podcast.
I love them. I love them. I love every one of them individually.
Great people.
Seriously.
Dave Jarvis. Good
Oh my
guy.
God.
Yeah.
I love them all.
Yeah, they're very.
That's so cool. I love
talented.
Bob. Should we give them all a shout out individually?
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
So how is it now so you're...
We're going to leave out Alejandro? Because he's our,
That's true, the other guitar.
the other one. Oh, Alejandro, I love you. I love you. Thank you for being my friend.
How does it feel to be back in, you're sort of immersed in music again? Is that...
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's easy.
Yeah, it's a different side of it, obviously.
Sort of. I mean, I was a booking agent for years.
Yeah.
It's a very different part to be the buyer as opposed to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
It's confusing and complicated, and I feel like I'm out of my depth all the time.
Yeah.
I have good people around me working very hard to keep me from being horribly unstable and driving them crazy. Some things work better than others. It's all a big experiment all the time. But here's what matters.
Yeah.
I am fiercely and doggedly proud of what we've done.
Yeah.
And of the people who have done it collaboratively.
Yeah.
Because there's a group of people over there who work tirelessly to make it be the rainbow butterfly unicorn that it is.
That's awesome.
And they're a blessing. These people, the bar managers, the booking agents, everybody, the sound, the guy who runs sound, the head of sound.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Do you know how mean bands are to sound people?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, no,
Your sound person shows up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to start ringing out the room.
Yeah.
They set up the mics according to maybe what they know about you because they've done the research because you never sent them a stage plot.
Right.
Or maybe you sent them the stage plot from your tour 3 years ago.
Right.
Because we get that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
More than you would believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've been there for a couple hours by the time you show up and you're stressed because you're playing a show.
Right.
So you yell at the sound man because you're stressed.
Right.
And you say, I can't get the door unlocked or whatever it is. Or do you have a DI or whatever it is? And the sound man very patiently says yes.
Yeah.
Because they have pledged to make you sound great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think sound men are saints and sound women and sound people. We have one woman on our sound staff. It is very hard to find women who can run sound. I'm trying to learn how.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's just discouraged.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn how.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm teaching myself because no one's teaching me.
No.
Women are discouraged from running sound. It's I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of it. I'm super proud of it. We've done amazing things that we should not have been able to do.
Yeah.
Like things that people are like, you had Mitski?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did.
You had like the comedian, the guy from
great comedians. We had just recently we've had Neil Hamburger twice.
Kids in the Hall guy.
Kids in the Hall. We had oh dear.
I can't remember his name, but
look at us, Scott Thomas. Buddy guy, Scott Thomas. 3 nights, sold out. We have Lou Barlow playing on Monday night, sold out for months, sold out. He broke his collarbone, still sold out. We did Janine Garofalo for 2 shows.
Oh, wow.
While we're talking about comedy, we host the Moth Radio Hour every month.
Oh, you do?
We also host Simpsons Trivia every month.
Oh.
We have a Buffy sing-along that's coming up, which is super fun. Buffy sing-along with Once More with Feeling, super fun.
I worked
we host...
No, I was going to say I worked at Rounder Records for a while when we released that album, the soundtrack.
Yeah, good old Rounder.
Yeah.
I love it. We host a great flea market, a rockin' flea market in Bloody Mary Bash.
Yep.
I mean, we host a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. And now so to end it, we'll talk about this show. So we're here in Framingham.
Here we are.
At Springdale Brewery.
Under the stairs.
Under the stairs. There's a little noise, but I think it's fine.
It's a lot quieter than anywhere else. Yeah. And actually, the staff, props to the staff, who have stopped slamming the door because they soon as they knew that we were here, they all of a sudden they got super quiet. And they've been really respectful and awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe we should wait. I'd like to now say for the viewer at home that there is a school bus unloading people into this facility. It's an actual school bus.
Yeah.
AA transportation company. You know what we need to do? We need to remember that. Let's take a picture of it.
I know, right?
Because I want to charter a bus to the show. And I'll tell the woman that's helping to manage the show to charter a bus. Because we want to charter a bus for people to come to the show. And then it's going to go from here at 8 o'clock to the Fathers 2 reunion,
I heard about
which is
that.
at the old 1270, which cracks me up. I'm definitely going to that.
Yeah.
And if you take a postcard from this show, you get $2 off admission at that show.
Oh, the Fathers thing. Oh, interesting.
We got to tell people.
Nice. So you have the swell of school bus people.
That was all right. The swell, the wave
the wave of people. But so June 2nd.
It's so quiet now.
I know, right?
Yeah. June 2nd.
Is the reception.
Is the reception.
Is an all ages.
It is all ages
Really?
until 6 p.m., at which time this becomes a bar and they can't be here. But it's from 4 to 6, all ages, on a Saturday. So I hope some of my friends can bring their kids. And then my son will drive all the children somewhere else to go have dinner or something.
Right.
Because he can't stay because he's under 21, but he's old enough to drive.
There you go.
So, it's some number of pictures.
Yeah.
23 maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. The last one was 28, I think.
Yeah.
It's 23 photos. They are 4 feet by 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
They're all black and white. They're all inkjet because people are going to throw beer at them.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate. I think it's appropriate that room smells like beer.
Right.
It doesn't smell like cigarettes and body odor, so it doesn't quite smell like the rat and pee.
Yeah. Right.
But it does smell like beer strongly because it's a brewery.
Yeah.
And the idea was to make them big enough that you could feel immersed in them.
Yeah.
But I think the good news is, or not the good news, but the actual success story up there is that I made them big enough to not get lost.
Right.
Because the space is mammoth.
Yeah.
Mammoth.
Right.
But if you walk up to them, you can immerse yourself in them.
Yeah, we walked through when I got here and looked in.
You have to get pretty close.
Yeah.
But then it's life size.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So how many are you in?
I saw myself in one of those, but I've saw, like I said, there was one in the XXX book of the Meat Men that I was in.
Remind me which one it is of the Meat Men? Is it the one with the...
Tesco is standing there. Oh, it's Tesco singing, and then I'm
with
standing there. Mike Gitter's kind of crouched
Does he have
down.
black fingernail polish on?
Maybe. Yeah, he might.
I think I know exactly which one it is. Yeah. Is Lyle in it?
Lyle's in it.
In the front, in his...
that wig.
And the jacket, he's wearing like a Sgt. Pepper's jacket.
Yeah, I think so.
It's funny because when I look at that photo, I see it in color.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I have
like
black
in my
and white.
mind, I see it in color because it was such a vivid moment.
Yeah.
I think the wig was actually yellow.
and that's
the jacket
the thing
was
when
blue.
Yeah, you might be right. When you look at these pictures, and we were looking at them, if you were at these shows or if you knew people, you can see your memories.
So the
will come
next
back.
show, which is going to be portraits,
and
some of them will be this big because there's a couple of hallways in the gallery that have long throws where you can get way back.
Right.
So there will be a couple that will be this big, and then some of them are going to be the same size that they were in the last show, and some of them are going to be smaller because there's one gallery wall where it's a hallway and you have to get very close.
Right.
So those are going to be really little.
Yeah.
And then there will be some medium-sized ones, and then a couple of them it's going to be mixed up. It's going to be portraits.
Nice.
Not mosh pits.
Right.
This one's called Slam Dance.
Yeah, which is appropriate.
Because nobody says that anymore.
I know, right?
And I said it, and somebody said, "What?"
Right.
I was like, "Yeah," and then they started to slam dance, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Skank, mosh, what do you call it?" They were slam dancing.
Yeah.
So that's why it's called Slam Dance. And actually, I would love for this to be a book.
Yeah.
I would love for Slam Dance to be a book. There's 88 selects.
Yeah.
That I pared down to 23.
Right.
There was 88.
Really?
It was hard.
I think this is the time to. It seems like a lot of people are enjoying the.
So if there's any publishers listening.
Yeah.
I have a friend who wants to work on this one with me to try to self-publish it.
Yeah.
I'm intimidated by self-publishing unless I get a lot of help.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, the scanning is going to cost a fortune.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's intimidating.
Yeah.
I'd have to do like, I don't know, a Kickstarter or something to do the book. Yeah, because then you get the book, right?
Yeah.
It's just basically, couldn't I just do
pre-ordering.
like a pre-order?
That's what I always consider that with that kind of thing, is because then
Yeah.
people are, you already know this person wants it.
That's a good way to do it, because look, I already have a cover.
Yeah.
I love this thing. By the way, I want you to know,
Yeah.
this is my first fanzine.
Is it? Yeah.
It is. And what I did was I took Gitter's book.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gitter. I took Gitter's book.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and I looked at how he'd done it.
Right.
And then I lifted a lot of his style. So,
Yeah.
like, one of the things that I did very deliberately
Yeah.
was all of the text is in typewriter,
Yes.
because it could be different sizes, because
Right.
we would put things on Xerox machines and make
Yeah,
them
of
bigger
course.
and smaller.
Yeah.
But it's all typewriter.
Yeah. No, I think
Because that happened. But then we would use this stuff called Letraset
yeah.
to do. This is obviously computer generated, which
Right.
is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
I probably should have worked harder on that. Maybe in the second edition, I'll make more of an effort.
Yeah, there's a fanzine that JJ made that goes along with this, which is pretty cool. So,
Oh yeah, there's a
yeah.
fanzine.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at that now.
And in the fanzine, every picture is in here. It's
Yeah.
in the show.
Oh, it is, okay.
And I loved that there was a guy, one of the bartenders here, it was like, there's a couple in the fanzine that aren't in the show. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't hung those up yet.
Yeah.
But one of them, this one is my friend Diane, stage diving.
Oh, wow.
And it's cool because it's a woman,
Right.
and that's awesome because there's not a lot of them. And then the 7 seconds one
Yeah.
that you were talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one has.
So a big part of the controversy of this was, what is slam dancing,
Right.
right? So to my mind, that's not slam dancing.
Right. Yeah.
It is a picture of the pit.
Right.
This definitely is. So this one's not up yet. That's Hank breaking up a fight.
Oh, really?
So that is definitely slam dancing.
Right. Yeah.
Is stage diving slam dancing? I don't know. Is it? I don't think so. But I had this whole conversation with people. So this, the one of Justice League, which
Right.
is the first one you see,
Yeah.
totally slam dancing. The Justice League ones, all these kids throwing punches at each other,
Right.
totally slam dancing.
Yeah, yeah.
But like that one of the Descendents, Marginal Man, those aren't really, those are stage diving.
Yeah.
It's not really slam dancing.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's not. So that totally is. There's this one, I'm going to describe this because this moment that we all have had
Yeah.
when you go to see the band and there's 4 people there, but
Yeah.
these people
They're still
are
dancing.
slam dancing.
Right.
They were bouncing off of each other. They
Yeah.
were actually slam dancing, all 4 of them.
Yep.
So most of these pictures aren't. Most of these pictures are stage diving and crowd surfing.
Yeah.
And maybe the show should be called Slam Dance Stage Dive Crowd Surf. But the beer flight that we're featuring for
Yeah.
the reception is actually called the Stage Dive
Oh, is it? Nice.
because it's a flight. Get
Right,
it?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
So there's really, that one for sure. But most of them are actually. So
Yeah.
because of that, there's stories. One of them is called Stage Diving.
Right.
One of them is called My Friend the Pit,
Yeah.
from the song.
Yeah, yeah.
Slam is about the song. This one is my favorite.
The
Can I read it
Enforcer.
to you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. It's my favorite. It's very short.
Sure.
I love them all. And I'm noticing that one's called Stage Diving, but none of them are called Crowd Surfing. So, second edition, Crowd
okay.
Surfing.
There
All
you
right.
go.
This is called The Enforcer.
Okay.
I remember seeing the circle jerks at the channel, and at the time everyone was doing pig piles. Often folks would pile on the singer, but at other times on anybody who was there. Well, the pig pile that day got so big that people started to pour off of the stage onto the floor like some sort of human avalanche. Later, as bands started to figure out how to play their instruments and they didn't want them getting knocked out of tune all the time, they would ask for someone to be on the stage, just to help keep the chaos at bay. But I love chaos, so maybe I wasn't the best person to be up there. Reverend Hank Purse.
That's perfect. And he was the enforcer.
He was the enforcer. That's what the song was that they
Yeah.
wrote for him.
Yeah,
He was the
slap.
enforcer.
Yeah.
Gitter's piece is called The Promoter,
Yeah.
which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Roger Marbury from Dag Nasty wrote a piece called Dag 86.
Yeah.
Dag 86 from about both of the shows.
Yeah.
And then my friend Sluggo wrote a piece about slam dancing, and it opens with, well, I suck at dancing, and back in the 80s, I was more interested in drinking. I did love the energy of hardcore shows, but it's 6 foot and 150 pounds. I felt too wimpy and wussy to get into the pit. Plus, those hardcore folks would likely spill my beer.
Was he
Sluggo?
dreadlocks?
Yeah, he had dreadlocks.
Okay.
He was in
Yeah,
Hullabaloo.
Yep, I
Who?
remember him.
So Hullabaloo were revolving in the same scene, but they weren't the all-ages hardcore shows.
Right.
They were playing the nighttime shows, the shows that would become grunge shows. They
Yeah.
were playing with bands like Pussy Galore and the Butthole
Right.
Surfers and bands like that. But there were these bands like Guar and Tad who kind of walked both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Hullabaloo definitely played some all-ages
Yeah.
shows.
Slaughter Shack was sort of in that same
Slaughter Shack. I worked with
world.
Slaughter Shack for a while.
Nice.
And Hullabaloo. I managed Hullabaloo for years and
Yeah.
years and years.
Cool.
Yep. It was
Well-
it was fun. I moved from photography into management
Yeah.
because Diane talks about this actually. She says something about how it wasn't enough to be an observer.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us feel that way.
Yeah.
I think that this is sort of the common, it wasn't enough for me to be a mere spectator. It drew me and I had to be a part of it somehow. And she's talking about stage diving, that she
Yeah.
had to get up on the stage
Oh,
and
yeah.
fly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had to, I don't know, I had to get my fingers into it. And so
Yeah.
I became a manager because I could get my fingers into it.
Yeah.
The same way that as a photographer, I could get my fingers into it
Yeah, yeah.
and be a part of it.
Yeah.
But I hate performing,
Yeah.
which is weird. I mean, obviously, I'm a blabbermouth. I can do interviews all day long. I love to
right.
tell stories.
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I'm not a blabbermouth.
Right.
That's a very self-depreciating way of saying this.
Yeah.
But I am a storyteller, and I could probably get on a stage and tell stories.
Yeah.
I would probably be great at the moth,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
I can't perform.
Right.
I lock
Stage
up.
fright or just
Horrible
yeah.
stage fright. Horrible.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't get through it. I mean, I have,
Yeah.
because I do ladies rock camp.
Yeah. What is
So-
that?
Have you ever heard of Girls Rock Boston?
Yep.
Okay, so the Girls Rock campaign is an empowerment program for girls 8 to 16 years old, and they do a summer program where they form a band and write a song together collaboratively, and they build each other up throughout this process. They don't
Right.
tear each other down, and at the end they perform it at Brighton Music Hall, and at that point they have developed the band. They have a logo and a T-shirt and a following, and people chant their name,
Right.
and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So the ladies do the same program in half the time. Their program is 6 days, ours is 3.
Okay.
And we also perform to a big crowd,
Oh, yeah.
and it's phenomenal and empowering, and very safe.
Yeah.
It's very
right.
safe. There's no criticism.
Yeah. Nice.
So I do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've done that like 9 times. So I've been in a lot of bands.
Well, I think you're a perfect guest for this podcast because
Oh,
it's
you're
called Talk
sweet.
About the Passion, and you've obviously had it since you were a kid. So
Yeah.
it's and you still have it here.
I do.
We just met tonight. We may have met in 1987 at one point, probably,
might
but
have.
who knows?
You may have kicked me in the face.
Excuse me.
Or you might
Possibly.
have been one of those people that was doing this thing that people used to do so that I could move behind them so that I could get where I needed to
Yeah,
go. And I would say, excuse me, and I would hold my camera up and they would part.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think people.
That thing where you hold it over your head and people move out of your
Oh
way.
yeah, I think people recognized that. Like you said, your friend wanted to be a part of the scene where everyone there sort of had a job. Not a job, but like
I agree.
was part of it. So
It's like a flock.
yeah, so
Everyone
so-
has a job.
Yeah, so photographing it, and that's
Yeah.
why XXX was such a great zine. I thought
Yeah.
because it had all those pictures.
Can I read
and
you
it's-
one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Yeah,
It's a good parting comment.
sure.
All right. Okay. So if I hadn't called this Slam Dance,
Yeah.
I would have called it Faces
Okay.
because they're really big.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the next one will be called Faces.
There you go.
The one of the portraits.
Right.
Okay, so when I used to take pictures for magazines, they wanted to see faces. It couldn't be hair or feet.
Right.
It had to be faces, famous faces.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody's ever seen these because these aren't the famous faces, except for the one of the 7 seconds. All right. So for the first time, here are the rest of the faces. They might be your faces, really yours if you were there, or they might be the faces of your friends who were there too, or they might be the faces you see around you at every show. That guy with the long hair, that guy with the tattoos, that girl in the tank top, that person over there yelling in the ear of that other person who is politely smiling even though they can't hear a damn thing.
Perfect.
I think you see those people at every show.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I definitely appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. I'm glad we made it work.
Yeah, definitely.
Under the stairs.
I know. And people, you should definitely come and see this. And the stuff is here now.
It's here now, and it's here through June.
Yeah,
it's here for a lot longer. The reception is June 2nd.
Yeah, and then it'll be
but the pictures are on the walls through June.
Awesome.
And I strongly encourage you to come take selfies with them.
Yeah.
Because they're really big, and you could totally assimilate yourself into the pit.
Yeah, I might do that with that 7
We should go
seconds
do that.
one,
Let's go take a selfie.
Yeah.
And like fit ourselves in somehow, and then we'll make it black and white.
Perfect.
All right, I'm down.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right.